What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. Recap with Mo, where we getting ready to get down into another episode breakdown from episode number 7, titled Belly of the Beast. But before we get into this video, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shiznit that's going down right here, alright? So the synopsis for this episode states that Boyd and Kristi seek to capitalize on the apparent death of the nightmare creature. In addition, Jim finds an unlikely ally in the volatile Randall. So that's the guy's name that's on the bus, just in case you did not know. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this episode breakdown very quickly, all right? All right, so we start this episode off in the clinic where we see Kristi and Fatima. They are pretty much discussing the whole pregnancy situation with Fatima. So in the previous episode, Fatima pretty much told Kristi that she was pregnant. She was in fear that she was going to lose Ellis due to the stab wound or whatnot. So she pretty much tells her she's good, and then you also got somebody with a medical background that could assist you with this pregnancy, right? So we see our boy Kenny come in, and he tells them, "Hey, light is coming up. Let's go ahead and go outside," pretty much. And from there, everyone is just pretty much looking outside of the window, and they're like, "Is the creature out there? Is the creature still there? Is it out there?" So the creature, Mr. Smiley, as I like to call him, he's still out there laying down on the ground. So everybody is assuming that he's dead. I assume he's dead. So hopefully he's dead, right? So Boyd, goes ahead and he takes the first leap of faith and he heads on outside, which we see everyone follow suit, right? So when they get out there, Mr. Smiley is still laid out and they show his, up close features of his hands and shit like that. So I was like, cool. But anyhow, so they decide to take Mr. Smiley, instead of getting rid of the body, disposing of the body, setting it on fire, whatever they needed to do to get rid of it, they decide to bring the body inside of the clinic. I was like, what the hell? Like, so that's the choice right now. So anyway, Kenny ain't down for it. He was like, how in the hell y'all why are y'all gonna do this, number one? And then how are y'all gonna get this thing in here without touching it? Whoop, whoop, whoop. So anyhow, they decide to bring the body in. He tells Ellis and the rest of them to head back. While they're standing there, though, Elgin has this look on his face like he's thinking about something. So, of course, Boyd is like, "Elgin, you all right? Like, what's going on?" And pretty much he says he's good. But obviously something is not right with Elgin, and we've seen that from the very first day that he got there, right? So from there, we head over to the colony house where we see Donna having this whole conversation with Dale. Dale was the one that stabbed Ellis previously in the episode, and now he's wondering what y'all about to do to me. Are y'all getting ready to stick me into, the little situation, the punishment box outside? That's what we do around here. And then he's so judgmental on the new people, and he was like, look, we don't have enough food. I saw what you guys put out there, and now y'all sitting up here acting like the shit ain't going down, like I saw it go down. And she was like, look, I will be very careful what you talking about. People got these hard decisions to make because number one, your head is on the chopping block. So I was like, yeah, Dale, you probably need to sit down and be still. So anyway, they lock his ass up in the room. No one is to enter, no one is to exit. All right, so we'll see what comes from that later. So Ellis shows back up to the crib. He, Kristi, and Elgin. Donna is excited to see him, and all of that. So we finally get back to the clinic where we see Mr. Smiley still laid out. They decide to go ahead and pick him up. They got a sheet, picked him up, took him in, of course. What was going on here in the next scene, I believe, was we were back at the loo where we saw Jim and Tabitha and everyone there. And, Ethan is like, he wants to go see Victor. Well, of course, Jim has a problem with that because he thinks Victor is a freak and he feels some type of way about him going down there. But Tabitha is like, look, you need to realize that if it wasn't for that freak, your wife and your daughter could possibly be dead right now. But you sitting over here on this high horse talking about you got a plan. So all this time, he's looking out on Tabitha, and Tabitha is like, look, I don't believe what you're saying to be true. You're talking about you've heard a voice, but how you know that was a real person on the other end of the radio? And he was like, it had to be. And she was like, but how do you know? So when they're out there having a conversation, right, Randall is flying a drone from the top of the bus over Jim's head. So Jim sees him as Tabitha disappears back into the house. So of course he has to go over and talk to Randall, who's flying the drone, because he has high hopes in figuring out who was on the other end or connecting with somebody on the other end of the radio. So anyhow, we head back to the clinic where they've actually brought Mr. Smiley back into the clinic, and now they're trying to pretty much discern what they're going to do, how they're going to go by operating on this creature, right? So from there, Kenny ain't feeling good about it. Like, he's just looking, because he was like, hold on, what are we doing? Like, I'm not afraid of the monster, but I'm pretty much afraid of the shit that went inside of the monster that killed the monster. Like, the worms, the things that were in your body, boy, like, those are the things that killed the monster. So what if they get out? Like, when they kill us, and I'm like, right, Kenny. Like, what when it, like, if something was able to kill this monster, could it possibly kill me? So I see where his rationale is, right? So he pretty much gets upset. He leaves because he can't take it. Kristi is dealing with Mary because she's going through this whole situation where she's going through withdrawal without drugs, So, and they're like, is there anything we could do? She was like, no, just go get the shit that I asked y'all to go get. So they're trying to figure out how to open this creature up. From there, we see Jim back on the bus. Well, he's on the bus now with Randall. And Randall is still coming off as this asshole. Like, what do you want? Like, just give me my space, pretty much. Like, he's made the bus his home, and he's good with it. He's cool with not, communicating with anybody, obviously. So Jim is like, what's wrong with you? Why do you have such a bad attitude? He was like, look, what do you want? Like, you seem like one of those little, pedophiles. Like, I was like, Dad, like, he's just trying to make conversation with you, Randall. But of course, like, he's eventually going to soften up, of course, but right now, he's just been who we've always seen Randall to be, right? This ass on the bus. So that's how he ended up on the bus in the first place. So anyhow, Jim is like, look, that drone could be the possibility for us getting up out of here so you can get back to your nephew's birthday party before you know it. So of course, Randall is like, okay, I'm all ears. So from there, he was like, hey, follow me. So now we finally get to see Victor, which we did not see him, I don't believe, the previous episode. But we get to see him this time. He's out there measuring to see how far have the trees moved. Ethan shows up. Obviously, he was able to come and see him. And Victor is being rude to Ethan because he's mad about the dried out orange marker that he gave. He's upset about it, like, that was a bad gift. Like, and I was like, hold on, Victor. Like, I know you're not complaining about a marker, my brother. But anyhow, he was like, well, if you want to help, there's a lot of work. You can help if you want to. So Ethan obviously decides to send help. From there, what do we see? Boyd and Kristi back at the clinic. They're still trying to decide what to do with the monster, and they're talking about the whole withdrawal situation with Mary, who was doing so good before the whole situation with Kristi and disappearing and all the shit like that. So she's blaming herself. Boyd is like, you didn't have anything to do with that. So anyhow, we head over and we see Jade. Jade is still in the bar, and now he's just trying to figure out shit. He's doing all types of stuff. So Tabitha comes and sees him, and they get into a good dialogue and conversation where they're discussing pretty much the different things that they've seen. And he tells her about Christopher, and she's like, when the hell is Christopher? And he shows her the picture that Victor showed her, and he asked, do you know who that is in the background? And she was like, oh yeah, that's Victor. And he was like, oh, like, it took me a little bit longer time to figure that out. But anyway, while she was there, she noticed a book with those images in it, which she conveyed to him that she saw those same images down in the cave. And he was like, hold on, what cave are you talking about? And she was like, the cave where the monsters were. So he was like, well, she didn't say that, but pretty much that's what she was alluding to. So I'm just getting ahead of myself. But anyhow, so going back over to Randall and Jim, they are walking back to where the camper went off the road, and they're trying to use anything they can find on the camper to communicate to the outside. And Randall pretty much has this one-on-one conversation with Jim where he's like, okay, you're making a lot of sense right now. But he posed a very good question, and this is, I guess, the pivotal part in this episode for me outside of the monster, all right? So he asked the question that I've been asking this whole series is, could there be someone on the inside that we all see each and every day who are working with the people that, quote-unquote, Jim are talking about, who he's talking about? Right? Like, if somebody on the outside has this whole scheme and has this whole plan together, could someone on the inside, i.e. Victor, or, even Kenny's mother, someone, could they be the keys to all of this shit that's going on? So that's what I've been thinking this whole time. But anyhow, we head back to the colony house. We see Donna. We see Donna, we see Fatima and everybody there. They're back in good spirits and just pretty much telling, everything that went down. And then we see Elgin back on the porch and he's talking to Julie. Now, Julie is like, look, we need to stop meeting up like this on the porch. Now, this is why I'm a little upset with Elgin, because Elgin, look, you just got here. Now, Elgin, you got to abide by the rules, bro. And Elgin breaks cardinal rule number one for me is, if somebody tells you not to say something for a reason, you need to stick to the code. And unfortunately for Elgin went ahead and went against the grain and told Julie, who was not, and then tells her not to say shit. Like, bro, oh my gosh. Like, there's an ancient proverb or Chinese proverb or Japanese proverb, I can't remember who it's from, but it says, if you don't want anybody to find out, don't do it. So in my book, this goes the same, this applies to this principle as well, because Elgin, if you don't want anybody to know that you told, because you don't want Boyd to be pissed off at you, don't say nothing. Like, now the only good thing I can see out of this whole equation is the fact that he remembers that there's something that is supposed to happen potentially from the vision that he had while he was coming on the bus. He knows that there's something going on, but he cannot remember. So anyhow, that's the only good thing I can see from that, right? So from there, let's get to the good parts here. Of course, when Tabitha pretty much told, not Tabitha, I keep wanting to call her Tabitha, when we saw Fatima pretty much tell Donna that she was pregnant, that was a good part, because Donna is like, with all the shit that we've gone through, we actually have a great moment that potentially could come from this. And of course, he told her that Ellis doesn't know anything about it, of course. So that's one thing. The other thing is the relationship between Boyd and Kenny, I believe, is going to get better. I believe that, Kenny is coming to grips that, Boyd did the best thing that he could with what was going down in the context. And I think eventually he's going to come back to Boyd in a way where he decides to be his deputy once again. Also, with that being said, here's something else that I forgot to mention about Marielle, or as I like to call her, Mary. She was asleep in the room where Kristi had left her, and she wakes up looking for Kristi and everybody, but specifically for Kristi. So she walks around the clinic and she finally finds, the room where they were. And when she goes in, she cuts on the light and shit. The monster, where the monster was supposed to be laying, the monster was no longer there. I was like, what the hell is the monster? So So then she runs up out of the room screaming now, like, what the hell is going on? And Boyd is like, are you good? And she was like, no, where's the body? And he was like, what body are you talking about? And she was like, the body of the monster. And I was like, oh, hell. So anyway, the camera then pans behind her slightly, and you see Mr. Smiley standing at a distance. And I was like, hell to the no, bro. But anyway, you see Mr. Smiley start to make his way towards Marielle. And I was like, run. I was like, run, Marielle. But Boyd is like, get up out the way. He starts throwing them at him, busting, right? But nothing is seeming to slow Mr. Smiley down at this point. And then all of a sudden, Marielle wakes up, and it just so happened to be a dream, right? So that's one part that I forgot to mention. The other piece that I wanted to talk to before I get to the main part of this show is the fact that Fatima, when she was telling Donna about everything about her being pregnant, she said it has to be like a miracle, a medical miracle, because it was told to her that she was not able to conceive, right? But as we can tell, a lot of shit in this city or this town or whatever we want to call it, things have not been, I guess the norm. So shit that's working now or not functioning or was not functioning. Or another thing that I've noticed is that people heal very quickly in this town as well. We've seen that with Ethan. We've seen that even shit. If you go back and look at Ellis, I mean, old boy was walking. I mean, right afterwards, and I guess you pretty much have to get up very quickly or you're gonna be left dead, right? So it is what it is, man. But I just thought that was pretty ironic. So let's go ahead and get to the pivotal point in this episode. Of course, they finally open the monster. So once they're able to open the monster and they pry open his rib cage, Kenny finally returns and he's ready to go. I guess he's, grown some balls at this point and decided to come in and help his woman, Kristi, right? So, or his potential woman, I'm going to just say that. So, once they open him up, Kristi then discovers that he looks like a human from the inside. And that's what I was assuming, like, are these humans having this monster, this monstrous experience, or what is it? Like, so, but she says that he looks like a monster on the inside, but his organs are all shriveled up like he belongs in a damn museum or something like that. So Kristi, out of frustration, begins to stab his organs all over the place, and she says, bamming, bamming. And then all of a sudden, bowel comes up out of his gallbladder. I was like, what the hell is that? And they decide to bottle that up, potentially, making that their secret weapon, I'm assuming. So they got to do a little more research on it to see where this work. But they pretty much got it bottled up. But I was like, damn, don't beat too much, because I was thinking that what if she cuts herself? It's almost like this movie I was watching. Damn, what is it called? Oh, it was Blade, right? So the body of a vampire was actually, it was like he was dead or it was dead. I can't remember if it was male or female or whatnot. But when they introduced blood to the system, they just dropped like a drop of blood into the organ area, and everything started functioning like regular. So I'm not sure if these monsters are wired like that. Like, because I know when they eat or they devour whatever they're eating on, they pretty much eat from the rooter to the tutor and shit. So I'm not sure, but what happens to it. But anyhow, yeah, that was crazy. And then the last thing we see is Elgin in a bathtub and with it fully closed. So I'm like, like, what in the world is he doing? So Elgin takes a bath, which, If you go back to the conversation that he and Julie had, she, suggested that he would, take a bath to help him relax a little bit. And while he's taking a bath, he sees, and then all of a sudden he hears the music box that comes out of nowhere once again. And once the music starts, this woman comes out of nowhere and forces him underneath the water in the tub. And I was like, oh, hell, Elgin. Now, I'm thinking this is a dream because every time we've seen this music box, it's been something that's been terrifying, and it turns out to not be true. That's what I'm hoping. Because when you look at the lady's clothes, she looks a lot like old girl Tabitha. So from the clothes that she was wearing previously. So I'm not sure. That's just my thoughts on it. But anyhow, man, let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I thought this episode was pretty cool. There were a lot of insights into it. There were some questions that were answered, of course, specifically about the monster itself, Mr. Smiley. But of course, there are still a lot of freaking non-answers in this episode. So let me know your thoughts down below, man. As always, I check you guys out soon, and see you guys later. Peace.